Hello friends, Jove here. Welcome to another episode of the Test-Driven Development Screencast. By now we can create an account, but we couldn't really see that in the UI. So in the previous episode we had in mind to start working on the failed creating account cases, but I'm thinking now that maybe it's a better idea to connect the successful created account with a UI, open the timeline, and make that first failing test that we started off with, make it pass, and then continue on these other things. So let's maybe see how that's gonna go. So here is our little to-do list that we had previously that we came up with, and then here we have the fail creating the account for various reasons. But before that, let's, as I said, now focus on open the timeline for once upon sign up. That's something that we can focus on now, and for that I think we have to introduce navigation. That's part of the Jetpack Compose as well. It has part of the navigation. We are gonna take a look at that. Then we can actually take a look at we also have to, instead of navigating to the timeline, we have to show error, not only for the fail creation but also for the duplicate account. That's also something that we'll have to do. And then I think another things that I would like to put in the to-do list, not to forget of course, but now everything is that in memory. We have this in-memory user catalog and everything works well, and we can keep that as long as we by the time we start working on making real calls. But at some point anyway, we'll have to think of introducing some sort of switching threads between the UI and the background, so that we can make these calls in the background. So that's something like in the ViewModel that we started off with, we'll have to introduce some sort of switching there. So let's just log it down in the to-do list so we won't forget it. So I'll say switching between UI and background threads in the ViewModel. Yeah, so I'm not gonna get into too many details for now, but like also another thing that comes to mind right now is that if we switch from the UI to background in order to make a call, that time during while we wait for for the call to execute and to get some results back, we have to show something to the UI in form of loading. So loading states, consider loading states. So that's something that we can take a look at as well. And also something like once signed up, we should remember the signed up user. So how about just remember signed up user? Yeah. Okay. But let's for now start with a timeline upon sign up and see how that's gonna go. So now we have this. In the previous episode, we created this in-memory user catalog, and there is some leftover that I want to address before we proceed further on, and that's sort of important for me. So basically, this create user is a so-called compose method. It just delegates to another methods, and the order of these methods is not right. So we have to check account exists, and that's here below, but it should be right after, because it's the first thing that happens in this method. It should be right after. If there was a call to another method inside here, it should be below this one. Next we have create user ID, so that should go up, and finally save user, so it's like at the below at the very bottom. So that's first something that I want to check in. Reorder the methods, the functions inside the in-memory user catalog. Okay, let's forget about this one for now. So that's something that I wanted to address, and now we can continue on this perform signup. Basically, here we need a successful signup, and in order for the signup to be successful, we need a password that will be valid. Because this one is not valid, we need some upper cases, low cases. We need a number, and we need a special character, and at least 8 characters in total. A valid email, and now I'm gonna run this and watch it fail. So here is also an emulator that I have prepared. Yeah, and just to make sure it fails for the right reason. Indeed, it cannot find the timeline. So let's maybe work on that one. So now we have this main activity, and we have this sign up. So we'll have to introduce the timeline and navigate to the timeline. But basically, before we start doing that, here in the sign up, we have to somehow connect with the ViewModel that we have and listen to the states. And also when we are done, when we submit this the email and password, we have to submit them to the ViewModel and then observe the states, and based on the states show different things. So for now we can focus only on the success, on the account created. Now we have also introduced an about field for the sign up. I think for to make this test pass, we don't really need to introduce that here as a field. We can do that later. So let's maybe start off with a ViewModel and see how that's gonna go. So for now, I can just create a new instance of the sign up ViewModel here. But of course, that's not gonna be the right thing to have here, because the creation of the ViewModel, the ViewModel basically I can pass here, but I will need some dependency injection to construct this ViewModel and all the dependencies of the ViewModels up, like the entire hierarchy. I think I'll have to introduce some dependency injection. So let's maybe also write that down in the log here. I'm not sure at which state I'm gonna introduce that, but I'll definitely have to do that. Let's see how that's gonna go. For now, I think I can just construct it here. It's fine. Then I think I need a credentials validator, and I need a user repository. Let's create them. So I'm gonna have an in-memory. No, so I'm gonna have a user repository taking in-memory user catalog, and I'll just leave it empty. And then the regex credentials validator. Okay, now here we can do a we can observe the state, and the way to do that is we can say I can use delegate as well here by sign up ViewModel, sign up state. There is an extension function called observe as state, but I don't have it because I need to add something in my build Gradle, additional dependency here. So let's do that. And I also have to, okay, let's maybe update these ones as well in the same scope. So let me grab this dependency. I have it here. So that's the runtime live data that we need, and I'm just gonna sync it. The sync went by, and I think now if I go back to my sign up composable, I can import this one. Okay, let's maybe first check in this let's first undo this. So I'm gonna make a commit out of these ones, and I'll say update dependencies. Then I will commit this one, add live data runtime dependency. And then here, observe a state. And then what I have to do is something very simple. If the sign up state is signed up, what's wrong here? Is because the comparison with equals, I need to also pass a user there. That's not something that I need to take in consideration now. So if it is a signed up, then I can just so the way to navigate now would be to actually call a callback on the sign up. So the sign up should introduce a callback, so something like on signed up. And that should be something that comes here, which is gonna be, I don't know, something like this. And then whoever is actually creating the sign up can basically decide how to navigate up. So that's one thing. And another thing is to pass now the values to the view model when we press the button of the sign up. So basically here we have to do the view model, sign up view model, create an account with the email, the password, and about. I'll just leave it as an empty, but also I'll write down in my to do here, add the about in the UI, add in about field in the UI. Okay, so here we go. So I think that's what we needed to do here. This one is for some reason like appearing red, but I think it's some bug. It should be fine. And now here we have to pass a lambda for the sign up, and here we'll need to navigate to timeline. Let's maybe run the test and see if everything is still fine. And if we are failing for the right reason. I just want to make sure that the dependency that we introduced and everything compiles well, and we are still failing for the right reason, so we didn't break much. So yeah, seems like we are fine. So now what's left is to navigate, basically. That's the only thing that we have to do. So basically here, in order to navigate, what we need to do is here we'll have to come up with let's maybe first say remember nav controller, and that's we need a dependency for this one. So we need we need to add additional dependency so that we can use the navigation from the Jetpack Compose, and that looks like this. So it has different version than the Compose version, same as like Activity Compose, for example. Currently it is Alpha 09. but basically, yeah, it's navigation compose 100. So that's it. Let's sync this first. And probably I would like to check this in. I'll say add Jetpack Compose Navigation dependency. Close this file. So now this one should be import, and I'll introduce a variable here, and I'll name this nav controller. Okay, let's move it after the set content. And basically now here inside the surface, I'll need a nav host that will have a nav controller that we remembered before. And then instead of graph here, I'm gonna have a start destination, and it works with strings. Basically, we can presume these the destinations and the routes as like as we have on the web. For example, we can have slash something, and then that's how we can distinguish between different destinations. So let's say something like sign up. So that's gonna be our first destination, or the starting destination. And now this sign up basically will have to be part of how we define different destinations inside this nav host composable. We have to define composables. So we, for example, a composable, and we have to define which route it is, and that's how it knows, for example, so the start destination is sign up, and this composable route's gonna be sign up, and okay, for some reason it is not. Oops, I think this is why. Yeah, and it seems like I have deleted here the argument. So yeah, so there is a composable with the route sign up, and then the start destination is basically that one. I don't like the hard-coded strings, but we will deal with that later. And then this is my sign up, and what happens basically on this lambda that we are passing here, it's not very clear. So maybe let's rewrite it this way: on signed up, and then we can say nav controller navigate, and as we can see here, there are a bunch of functions available here, but basically we can pass another route to navigate, something like this one. So navigate to, let's say, timeline. But because the timeline is not something that exists yet, we have to also add composable for that one. And we can name this timeline. And here, just to satisfy the test initially, let's just come up with a text. And name it timeline. That's it. We will extract this later. Just first, let's make sure that the test passes. If it passes, then we are cool. Actually, instead of this, I can use the string resource. I think I have for the timeline because of the failing test. I know that for the test, I was expecting string resource. So basically, timeline screen is present. If I check the robot here, exactly. So this is the string that is already in the string resources, so I can use that one. So here I can say string resource are string timeline. Yeah. Okay, now let's get back to the test and run it and see if that one works. Yeah. So we saw on the emulator as well that after like entering the username and password, submitting, it opened something like timeline. So we can actually see the same if we do that manually. because the test went pretty fast. So this is a valid email. I can do a valid password, add some numbers. Yeah, so we can see here the timeline. So the navigation works well. That's great. And now if I go back to my to do, I have actually opened the timeline upon sign up. That's done, and the navigation is also done. But let's first go back to check this in what we have done so far. So this is the right password. This is the what we have introduced for the inside the sign up, and this is the navigation. So I think they will all go together, and I'll say we can open timeline upon successful sign up. Cool. So now the order of things is like we are gonna add the about field. We can do first a little cleanup. Because as I said, we have hard-coded destinations. It's not something that is my favorite thing to do. We can extract some constants from that. Then we can add the about, and then we can also work on like showing the duplicate account and the failures afterwards. But before the duplicate accounts in this one, basically, I think after the about, we'll have to introduce the DI. Because part of the cleanup is gonna be in the sign up, the way that we are creating now the view model here. It's not right. So this has to be part of the dependency injection. So then here we are gonna pass the view model here as an argument, and then the only line will be this, and then observe basically here whatever we have to observe. But for now this is fine. Let's maybe first start the cleanup here. So as I said, let's extract some variables for the sign up, instead of variables, actually constants. Let's see if we can do that. So here we are gonna have a sign up. That's gonna be a constant, and I can maybe wrap this with a. Let's maybe start something simple for now. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep them in a companion object. I'm thinking maybe to create this instead of companion object, an object with like destinations, and then have like destinations.signup, something like that. But yeah, I think for now, let's keep it simple. If I have a need later on, the evidence will prove me that I need, then I'm gonna think about that. For now, I think everything's gonna be fine if I just do it this way. So this is the timeline. That's gonna be also a const. Cool. And now I think this one is pretty much clean. It's sort of pretty straightforward. So we have the nav controller, and then we have a nav host, which takes the controller, and the start destination is a sign up, and then we have a composable for the sign up, which wraps the sign up itself, and then we also have the timeline. So basically, let's maybe extract this into a timeline composable. That's gonna be a composable timeline, and maybe extract this into, let's see if I can do that. I cannot do that. So the way to do is copy this, and then here we have SignUp. We can come up with a package called timeline, and oops, instead I should have created here a Kotlin file that's gonna be called timeline. Well, not class but file. It was a mistake. So here is the timeline, and for now it just has text. That's fine. Now here in the main activity, instead of this timeline here, we can import the timeline from the timeline, and now we have separated well. Now we have SignUp composable, which is great, and we have a timeline composable, which is also like separate file. We can continue now in the standalone file, I mean later on. And so that's about the main activity for now. I think it looks pretty fine. So what we have now is we have cleaned up the main activity, and we came up with a timeline. Cleaned up the main activity. So let's maybe now add the about field and see how that's gonna go. So back to our yeah, I think I've closed the sign up. Yes. So now we have column, we have email field, we have password field, and then we can also add a, yeah, we have spacer, and we can add the about field, and also a spacer. And now inside the about field, we also need to have a, well, let's create it. And move it down after the email and the password. So we have email and we have password. And I think we can reuse the same from the email. And it has to go also below the visibility toggle, because the visibility toggle is part of the password field. So they are like, you know, the order is fine. So this one should have a value, which is gonna be a string, and it should have also on value change, which is gonna be a string into unit. And then here I'm gonna have again an outline text field, fill max width, the value is the same, and then the text instead of email should be about. And let's create string value resource about. And on value change. Yeah. Good. And then here we need to say value is gonna be the about, which is a state that we'll have to remember. And then on value change, we'll say about equals it. And then also here, pass the about as well. And now finally, let's create the about. That's gonna be a variable. It should be a mutable state of initially empty string. So that's the about. And I think now here we can also like include. I mean, it's not, yeah, it's not relevant because the about is mandatory. It's not mandatory field. It's sort of optional. I don't think I have to include as part of the test because I don't want to pollute the test with irrelevant details. Like the about is sort of optional. I think it can stay. It won't change this test much. So in that sense, let's maybe run the test for the last time and watch it, how the screen's gonna look now. Yeah, it keeps passing. So yeah, maybe let's also take a closer look at how it really looks here. Okay, I think the space looks a bit more, a bit bigger than between the. Let's see what's going on. So we have email, password, and then spacer. Okay, then I think this spacer here is not needed. Let's run again. Okay, and yeah, email, password, about. That's great. Now it looks fine, and let's check that in. And I'm gonna say introduced about field in the sign up screen. Cool. And now let's look at where we are. And next, I think we have to introduce a DI so that we can, in the sign up, we can clean up this this part here. But I think that's gonna be a little bit more of I think it will take a little bit more time because I want to give sort of more of more like bigger explanation on the how it's gonna work with the DI. And I think I'm gonna leave it as a first thing in the next episode, and then once we have the DI, we can also focus on the error states for the UI. We can write tests for the duplicate account, and also for the because the duplicate account is already something that we have created. We can catch it in the UI test as well. We can have a test for that because we'll need to introduce UI to describe that something is going wrong, like an error state or something somewhere. And then we'll continue afterwards with the duplicate with the fail creating like offline and when there is a backend error. And so that's sort of how we are gonna proceed forward. But I think for this episode, this is more than enough. I'm gonna push this code right now, and I think that this time now, because of the UI test is gonna pass, it's gonna create a new build. The continuous delivery actually is gonna pass, and it will create new build for Google Play. And basically, the ones that shared with me their emails, they're gonna receive an update for the application. And once again, as a reminder, if you really want to become also part of the beta testers on Google Play, you can just share with me. My DMs are open. You can share with me your email, and I'm gonna add you to the testers, so you will also receive updates as we develop this application further on. Thank you so much for the time and the attention. I'm gonna make sure to catch you in the next episode. So yeah, have fun. Cheers.